acclaimed as the paradigm shift. These two guys exchange Valentine's gifts. Yo, Eddie, why you dressed like it's '04? You look like a box of Newports. And Mox, you're out of your element. I'ma knock you out with this mic like Omega did. Call your girl, she all in my mentions, trying to hit me up for some oral sessions.
You're tuning to Too Sweet Elite with Andrew and AJ, presented by the AEP.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to a morning edition of the Too Sweet Elite podcast with your boys, All Elite Andrew, Big Match AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing good. I've been trying to step to you is what I've been trying to do, trying to get some wrestling articles out there. Everybody's denying me.
Well, you'll get it, man. You just gotta put it out there. Keep finding the right opportunities, and soon enough, like we were talking about, Foreign Mania, a couple other platforms that are definitely out there that you could reach out to, and I think in due time. So, but it's nice. It's nice to have the journalism thing. I submitted an article this morning for WrestleJoy on Lee Johnson that will be coming out either later today or tomorrow, depending on the images. We're going to try and find some more images potentially of Lee, because his Instagram has none. He's like the first wrestler I've seen to wipe his social media. Makes sense. It's a smart thing to do once you're put on a national platform. Yeah. But it was the first time I've ran into this situation. So it's almost...
It's also... like a good quality of a wrestler to be like off of social media, in my opinion, in 2021.
Well, to have at least made the recognition probably when he got signed or something, like let me get rid of a majority of content that might not be what I want to be representative of me at this point, because he's a younger dude too. Like I think he's like 23, 24, so I could imagine him just having some stuff that is a little bit more not PC anymore from a couple years ago, or just stuff like that, similar type of stuff. I've been in that situation, so I just know how it goes. But it was very interesting to see, because what I love doing when I write these WrestleJoy articles is finding those images on Instagram, going through their feed, because like someone like Sean Dean, he has images from like 5, 6, 7 years ago where you're like, wow, this guy's journey has been kind of incredible, and you get to witness it real quick. Wish I would have got that with Lee, but totally understand just wiping your social media at certain points because of stuff you might have said that was dumb when you were a kid. So
Yep.
But like I said, we're back to another episode of Too Sweet Elite. Want to shout out everyone who has continued to support us, continue to download the podcast, listen to the podcast via whichever service you utilize. If you are utilizing a service that gives you the opportunity to review the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think about the episodes. And if you're tuned in, let us know what you think personally. Shoot us a message on Twitter or whatever. Let us know what you're thinking of the episodes. We've been changing stuff up a little bit, as you can see, going early on Tuesday morning. And as long as Dynamite's going to be running on Fridays, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the podcast Tuesday morning. We're going to run through last week's episode of Dynamite and also give the card for this week's episode of Dynamite, give an idea of what we're thinking about. Just because personally my schedule fits better to run one show a week right now. Now, when Dynamite and AEW expand to 2 shows, we might again go back to 2 shows, but that's a little bit down the road. We've got time to figure that out. And of course, when Dynamite goes back to Wednesdays, the consistent Wednesday schedule, we'll release our podcast on Friday. So just want to get everybody updated on what our plans are, what our schedule is for this podcast. And we'll also be probably doing a more just general wrestling oriented podcast with AJ and myself, just talking about how we feel, not necessarily just AEW, but the landscape of wrestling. And we'll probably have a little bit more hot takes, because I don't think we're as focused in on maybe WWE or New Japan or MLW or Ring of Honor, but we would want to talk about them and just sort of give our opinion on what we think is going on, and it might help me watch a little bit more wrestling. But that's everything.
Also, people like it. People really like it when you're pessimistic about WWE, so we'll be in great standing. We'll shit all over it. We'll get millions of fans.
Yeah. But I'm sure I'll find a thing or two to like about WWE, because they got a ton of talent that I just want to be able to talk about.
The best roster in the world.
Yeah, so that's why we're thinking of expanding on that end as well, just doing stuff a little bit more differently. But that's what we needed to open with. Now let's talk about AEW. They had a big move, and this was huge. This was one where I feel like we almost should have went and did like a quick podcast or later last week, because of how big this news was.
I'm glad we didn't, because we had time to think about it and really let it sit and digest.
We would have been probably hating a little bit, and I still don't have total, like, this was the move they wanted to make. And I think that's been my biggest argument with anyone up to this point. It's not been like, oh, this is a bad move. It's just they didn't want to do this. No one was asking to move to TBS. Now, I think they will make the best of it. I think they have the fan base to make the best of it. I don't think this is going to be a massive issue. And you're right. In us having time to digest this, we recognize the positives. So you can go ahead and just explain what the positives of this deal are.
Well, I mean, the I guess the biggest one, but it's a small positive, but like it's still a positive, is that TBS is in more homes, and that's cool. And also, like you said, I don't think they wanted to go to TBS. I don't think it was on their radar to move to TBS because they're in more. No, it's like 1 million difference or a few million difference. But the point is, we've seen AEW get followed by their fan base in big numbers after an NBA game on a Thursday. I'm not worried about them moving to TBS and all the viewers are like, I'm not watching TBS. Like, that's not going to happen. And also, they get the four specials on TNT a year, and they get paid for those now. So winter is coming. They didn't get extra money for that. I want to say Blood and Guts, War Games, Blood and Guts. They didn't get paid for that, and that was that must have cost a lot. And you don't get money. So it's like Clash of Champions now, where you get these big specials on TV and you get paid for them. That's cool. That's more money for the wrestlers. That's more money for the company. That's a great move. And overall, like, it seems so minute. Like, I hate to be like in the middle of the road here. Like, obviously they didn't want to go here, but it's not a bad thing that they did. But I am middle of the road. Like, it's fine. There's nothing to freak out about. There's no reason to raise red flags. Everything's gonna be okay.
And if anything, it's a net positive because we got the announcement of the secondary show, which is going to start out on TNT, and then both will move to TBS when the move officially happens next year. It's also going to give us just an interesting reset point at next year. We've talked about this in previous years with AEW. When we get to the start of the year, we reset records. What are they going to do differently? What do they want to do to change stuff up? Because they almost are more like New Japan, where they reset near the beginning of the year rather than like a WrestleMania event in April like WWE seems to do. So I think, yeah, and initially, again, I had some like reservations about it. I didn't really take into consideration the fact that, one, they got more money just for doing it in general, and then two, they're getting more money for doing the specials. Once you take into consideration the financials, it's like you can't argue with it. It just, from a business perspective, makes the most sense. Now, maybe from an outside perspective, going from TNT to TBS is a bit of a downgrade. And I would say that that's an agreeable thing. But you also say that this is Turner saying they have faith in AEW to pull that fan base to TBS and potentially have 2 top 10 shows on their network every Wednesday night. They could become like a front runner network really by doing something like this. So I'm sure they're recognizing the potential in that. I think when AEW makes the move, it could see a slight dip. We'll see. It depends on what their competition is. I had considered the fact maybe they would have hockey as competition on TNT, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think Wednesday night games for hockey are going to be typically on ESPN, but this is just to prevent any preemptions for basketball, for hockey, for anything like that. And AEW is clearly suffering a lot of those this month, and we'll see how bad that hurts. Like, maybe it's going to be no difference. Maybe they get 600,000 this Friday, and they'll run 600,000 when they go to TBS, and it's just the same. And that number will grow on TBS. I think that might be where they start, as people have to transition, and depending on the competition at that time of year. But I'm not worried at all for AEW.
No.
So.
And also, I think this might give them a bit of a boost in their older demo that they haven't been able to grab, because a lot of, I don't know if you noticed this, maybe it's just white people, but old white people love TBS. They love their what's it called, Big Bang Theory and Little Sheldons and all the CBS shows that go to TBS and American Dad and all those Fox shows. Like, they watch, like, that's my dad's favorite channel. Like, he's on TBS like all day if he's not on his channel.
Shout out to your dad. Shout out to all the old white people. You know, we don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but no, I kind of see what you're saying, and it could help in that demographic. I think in general, like it's a cable network world now, right? Like, you can't, it's not there, and they're not going from Fox to FS2 or ESPN, ESPN Ocho. Like, they're going to a platform of the same nature. They're not going to Showtime behind a paywall, so they're fine. And this is great news for fans as you get more general content, which it seems like what's the show called? Revenge or Rampage? AEW Rampage, which will be on Friday nights. It'll air after SmackDown. It's going to have the same type of feel to AEW. So as a fan, I'm just genuinely excited about that information. and just like it's not a problem. I'm glad that some people were able to help me, and my hot take was very quick on social media because I had just initially heard of the announcement. I was like, oh, TNT to TBS, that's a downgrade. They didn't want to do that. Oh, they're making more money. There's specials out of this. There's a lot that comes out of this. Even for fans, there's a lot of benefit from this. Yep. So it's a good move overall. And this week they did see another ratings dip down to 820,000. We'll see what happens on Friday in terms of how that transitions over. If they're able to carry over 750,000 on Friday, that tells me their TBS move will be very, very simple. Because some of the past preemptions, they weren't necessarily at such a difficult time. Friday night after SmackDown is going to be a difficult time to run, so we'll see how they pull that in.
I honestly, the rating isn't surprising to me either because like that card was not like stellar. Like there was no reason like, oh, I have to tune into AEW this week. Like there was definitely a lot of cool shit that happened, especially the Moxley and Eddie match. That was great. Like we started with, and we'll get into the whole show, but there wasn't anything like, as far as I remember, like Varsity Blondes versus the Young Bucks. Who's gonna believe the Varsity Blondes are going over the Young Bucks on Dynamite?
That was a great match, though.
It was a great match.
We'll get into this Dynamite in a couple of minutes, but I think you're right on paper. On paper, that card was just a good Dynamite. Nothing spectacular, nothing over the top, and that's expected on just a regular Wednesday night Dynamite, right? Like they don't book themselves where they're like, oh man, we're on Friday next week. We got to do something really, really special this Wednesday to like they just keep booking as they were planning to book, and that's really smart. It keeps consistency. It doesn't force anything. So with this card, it was just kind of a filler episode. But there was a lot of great stuff to it that we'll talk about. So yeah, I think the numbers, whatever, going into the pay-per-view Friday could be a great number. It could be a really, really bad number. We'll see. Who knows if we even get it until like after the pay-per-view, really, because if they're running that on Friday, I don't know if we get numbers on Saturday. I think it might come on Monday, and then the pay-per-view.
It would probably come on Monday. You're right. Now that you mention it,
it's been very interesting though this week. Like just kind of getting into the vibe of the schedule, because even up until this morning, I literally thought Dynamite was tomorrow, and then I realized like, oh wait, it's Friday. Like this all works our schedule really, really good right now. But yeah, it was strange. Speaking of schedules, Fozzie's tour date is set. Only 2 dates that are on Wednesdays, and they're many, many months apart. Doesn't look like Jericho will have to take much time off for this one, but I also wouldn't be shocked if like that's the storyline perspective they go with right now, where maybe the Inner Circle does break up and Jericho leaves for a while. So
that would make sense.
Yeah.
I'd be totally into that. Like if they just put Jericho off TV for a while, because like in the beginning of AEW, it's like, man, we really need Jericho on TV. But like we're at a point now where it's kind of smooth sailing, not smooth sailing, but like it's going where it needs to go. It's getting the viewership that it needs. Everything, it has stars that people are accustomed to.
He was an amazing face of the company too. He was the amazing person, and Kenny too, and the Bucks and Cody, and they all deserve their credit. But everybody knows that Jericho pulled a big amount of people into this and did a great job with it, and isn't like still in the title picture. He's not still looking to become champion. He's essentially in a feud right now where he's looking to try and make about 9 other people around him. And that is the incredible thing about Jericho, why he's been a perfect guy to like lead this company, and why he's just such an interesting character through all this. He's someone like, it's just very interesting watching him move, do this stuff with Stone Cold, be able to help elevate AEW in such a crazy way. Like, you have no idea what that guy's going to do when his AEW contract's up. He could do anything.
Absolutely. He could, and he might, because he's does everything.
and he will command a heavy price tag at that point. So, yeah, it's been great to see what Jericho's done, and it's cool to see that he's about to get back on tour and be able to do that aspect of his life as well. So, very interesting. And the last interesting bit of news, the Forbidden Door been busted down. Ren Narita and Rocky Romero they did appear on Dark Elevation last night. I didn't check out everything, but I did see the Rocky Romero segment. Saw him reunite with Trent for a little Roppongi Vice love, and best friends brought them all in for a big hug. You shared that in our group chat. That's awesome. Like, this is an awesome thing to see these really talented stars on Elevation.
Yeah, it was really cool to see a Roppongi Vice reunite. It was the high five right when the music hit. Anyways, I also liked Ren Narita. And Ren Narita's, if anybody doesn't know, Ren Narita has been in the LA dojo for New Japan Strong for quite some time. He's getting trained by Shibata, I believe. and a bunch of other people are too, a bunch of young boys, but he's been a standout. Like when they did the match at New Japan Strong, I don't know if you remember, but it was Ren Narita and Yuji Nagata versus Dickinson and Moxley. And so Narita was wrestling Moxley. Like he's pretty good for his age. Like he's damn good. And I'm excited to see where his career goes when they finally give him some tights that aren't just black trunks and he's not a young boy anymore. He's
I
gonna
love
do some
that
bullshit.
aspect of New Japan, and I would love if, like, in some ways AEW incorporated something like that, not with a ton, and maybe that's even what the Dark Order is in its own way, you know, because look at Alan Angels, look at 10, look at guys like that who will eventually come out of this group, you have to imagine, in just a whole different way, even Silver and Reynolds. So that's cool, and I think Ren Narita is going to be a cool, like, it's cool that they're featuring talent like this who people know about. It gives you a reason to go and check out Dark Elevation. Really, really cool. Love Rocky Romero. I think he's one of the big facilitators of bridging this gap. He's someone who will go down when there are documentaries made about this. He's going to be someone spoken about a lot about. He helped facilitate a lot of stuff and do a lot of big things that people probably don't recognize.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great stuff. I'm going to have to check it out just because I want to see what Ren Narita did on Dark Elevation. And hopefully we just see more of this. Like, I would love if we just saw young boys on Dark Elevation all the time, because what a cool way to continue facilitating that relationship while building just different stars. And we saw it with Takeshita and different companies too, which is like something I really appreciate them doing. I think it's a great way to make people want to tune into Dark, showcase these talent. And I don't want to say waste TV time, because it wouldn't be a waste to feature these guys, but they're not as well known in America. So this is a good way to introduce them to their fan base. So I think they did a great job with Dark Elevation on that one. So, yeah, let's talk about this week's Dynamite. We'll quickly run through the card. We opened it right up with Christian picking up a victory over Matt Sydal to open the show. And this is
fun match.
It was a fun match, but I liked what happened after the match a little bit more. We got some Ricky Starks distraction action. Brian Cage and Hobbs attacking Christian. We got Hook attacking Matt Sydal outside the ring, and Hangman Page comes out to make the save, has Ricky Starks hold his beer. This is all really great stuff until Hook decides to chop block Hangman. They destroy Hangman. This is a great way to build up a couple of different matches, I feel like we will eventually get Starks versus Christian, which the internet wrestling community, I feel like, has to just know in the back of their mind is going to be an amazing match that we haven't seen yet. And then, of course, Cage and Page. So,
yeah, I get the feeling that Christian himself probably really wants to work with Starks, because like,
it makes it
they
feel
didn't give
big
up on
to
this.
me. That's how. That's why I like, and I hope the general consensus is that. I haven't really taken a look over Twitter during segments like this to know if like generally people are thinking this way, but I hope so. That's how it feels to me, and it really feels like Christian's knows that match is gonna be great. So I think they're building up to something with them for sure.
It's kind of like how Sting, it felt natural that he gravitated towards Darby. It feels natural that Christian is gravitating towards Ricky Starks. And it's cool because they're not giving up on this, like you said, because he's injured and he's still doing this. Like, he's still in this angle.
Yeah, he still came out, cut the promo. They did a great job at building this up. So, yeah, I like it. I like them keeping Starks featured as well during his injury. Then we got a promo from Brian Pillman and Griff Garrison. Pillman, you liked it? I thought Pillman did all right. I thought Griff really did good. We've seen a lot of growth from Pillman for sure in terms of his promo ability, but maybe
that's why I liked it.
I still think there's a lot more to go.
I liked it because I was thinking, like, man, this is not the same guy that I was watching MLW videos like from like what 4 or 5 years ago, however long it was. Like, this seems like a different dude, and it really impressed me that he had grown that much, which isn't to say, like you said, it was like a Moxley promo, no, but it's such a vast improvement, and it shows you, like, this guy's working at this, like maybe he's not, like, because, like, I think people, like, hold him to a higher standard being Brian Pillman's son, but, like, here's the thing, it's not like he grew up with Brian Pillman. It's not like his dad taught him how to wrestle. It's not like he got all this ingrained wrestler instinct. Like, he wasn't even watching wrestling that much, I'm sure. I think he said that, like, he was, just doing whatever fun he could, but, like, he's training just like any other wrestler, and he's doing really good. Like he's growing at the right rate. He's learning the right things at the right times and going from there. And like, we'll get into it, but the match itself was great, and his in-ring work has become very impressive compared to what he was doing in MLW.
Yeah, and then like, I guess my biggest issue you could say with his promo was like, it was just like the genuine aspect, and I think it's because what he was trying to necessarily come across wasn't exactly how it is, because he was genuinely like, he was trying to say, oh, you guys are saying I got into wrestling because of my dad, that's why I stayed out of wrestling, and there is some truth to that, but there's also, if you watch the Dark Side of the Ring stuff, you know, like, he did get into it because of his dad. Like, yes, he stayed away from it initially, but that's the reason he also got into it. So it was just a little weird and came across as just not as genuine, because I don't feel like he genuinely meant that, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, well, he meant it in a sense, I don't know. And how the hell
I think he
do I
meant
know?
like,
You know,
like there's two different like weights here. Like I'm sure throughout a lot of his life, he really did want to stay away from wrestling. Hence me saying he probably wasn't, like he said, like he was.
he
I
wasn't
remember
tuned in
like
as
going,
much, yeah.
like you watch SmackDown sometimes, and it's like he wasn't like a big wrestling nerd. He wasn't he was. I'm sure he loved his dad
And
as
maybe
much as he
that's
could.
why
As far as
it
he
just
could remember,
felt weird
but,
for me. Maybe like his delivery was probably fine. It just felt weird for me because I'm like, you're in wrestling now, but obviously you know the story, you can recognize it. So yeah, it wasn't a bad promo for sure. Dude has tons of time to grow. I think he really, once he finds himself, and maybe himself is just this like awkward kind of goofy guy. Which
I think it is.
and I agree with you 100%, especially in seeing him on some of the vlogs and stuff, which is why he's in a tough spot being compared to his dad, right? Because if he's generally like an awkward kind of goofy guy, and you try to come off as this super enigmatic, like over-the-top character, it comes across as a little different. He's not, and I'm not saying he's trying to do that at all, but that's what people might be anticipating from him. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I meant by like the stigma. Like he doesn't have to be the loose cannon. He can be something entirely different.
yeah, and that's what I'm just waiting to see, because we haven't seen what he necessarily is yet, right? And him and Griff, and that's why this promo was great. We got to see a little bit more about them, and then they've since added their manager, who adds even a little bit more, just something to them. I think adding that female dynamic to the Varsity Blondes. So I think,
What's her name? Julia Hart?
yes, Julia Hart. So not a descendant of the Hart family, I believe. So
No.
but she's still a great addition to that group, and I think that they are going to go a long way, and we'll get into that when we talk about their match. But then we got a Kingston and Mox promo. They're talking about the Acclaimed and the Young Bucks. Kingston asked if they have to throw super kicks in order to get into the super kick party, and this is just generally a promo setting up a title shot opportunity.
These guys are so fun though.
They are.
Like,
it's like
I
watching,
could watch these guys do this for an hour.
it's literally what Tony Khan said, where it's like a buddy cop movie where these two just go off each other so well. They're such a like comedic duo, and they do a great job together, and you could tell that they're buddies. That I'm curious to see how this splits up, if ever. So we'll see. But right now it's been really great, and I like where they're building it to the tag team match. And they were building this to a tag team match, because then we got the Acclaimed promo talking about if they want a title match, they got to go through them first. And then we got the whole what we introed with, right? The dope Acclaimed intro.
He wanted to be on the podcast.
Dude, he looked Mox dead in his face when he said that about the oral sessions, and I was like, you are a brave man. And of course, he got bopped right in the mouth for it. They had a decent little match. The Acclaimed got some action in there, so they looked all right. Mostly Mox and King taking this one, though, and they picked up the victory. It was a good match, though.
I want to say, like, yes, he is a brave man, but also Moxley loves him because, and like, not in kayfabe, because he's like, oh, you just plugged my wife's podcast. I'm gonna give you a rub, brother.
Right. So no, this was good stuff. Mox and Kingston debuted.
And Renee replied to it. Did you see?
Yeah, she said once you get your followers up and a blue check mark, right, then you can show up on the podcast. So she got him right back.
Good sport.
With a nice one. Yeah. This was good. They debuted a little tag team maneuver here with Mox and Kingston, just sort of solidifying them as like an established-ish tag team. Again, I love what they do here with their main event talent who might not be featured in the title picture right away. You take someone like Moxley, pair him with someone like Kingston, and a natural pairing similar to Hangman Page and Kenny, and they just make such a fantastic duo.
Yeah, it's crazy how AEW does that, isn't it? They just take two guys who everybody likes and then puts them together, and then everybody's like, oh, yeah, make them champions.
Because they focus on it and they show you why they're friends or why they're a team, right? It's not just Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio were just feuding, so now they're a tag team type of thing.
Or in Kenny and Hangman's case, why they don't even like necessarily want to be a team, but they're just so damn good.
Yeah, so this was good stuff. I like where they're building with Moxley and Kingston. I genuinely I don't think they'll win the tag team titles, but I also wouldn't be shocked to see it. So we'll see how they continue building to that and what we get at the pay-per-view. Then we get Jericho backstage. He's talking to Dean Malenko a little bit. Alex Marvez asks if we're gonna get the match. Jericho says we gotta wait, but I mean, who honestly thinks that match isn't happening? Come on,
I know, right?
come on. We didn't need this segment. It was only
We didn't
10
need the other
seconds.
segment either. Like they are obviously gonna accept.
Yes, I agree. But and I will fall back a little bit because when they first did this, I was like, no shit, he's gonna accept. They asked for the match. I forgot about the disbanding part, so they have to address that. But still, of course, they're going to accept. They're not gonna be like, oh man, never mind.
Now we're scared.
Yeah. So but it is what it is. It was very short, not a long thing. So we probably spent more time on it than they did. We got a Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page promo. They're cutting a promo on Sting and Darby. They do have pretty good chemistry. They've come together as a good tag team. Would actually like to see them do like a short run, like a legitimate run. And I think that's what we're going to get. But I had sort of thought these guys might just initially be singles guys who team together and like support each other. But it seems like they're going to get a real tag team run, which is interesting for Scorp, right? Because it seemed like he turned heel because he wasn't getting his opportunities. But he was getting them when he was a tag team, so maybe this is why he's returned to a tag team that's not Kaz, because they just have their shit going on. But it's definitely not complaining about it. They did a great job. This leads to Sting and Darby coming out, obviously setting up to their match at the pay-per-view. Interesting note, I don't know if you saw this, but Scorpio Sky said said that someone in WWE asked him not to hurt Sting, so hopefully he protects him, brother. What a weird guy to say that to, too. Scorp is a great guy. It was Seth, I wouldn't be worried about that. Maybe.
Seth killed Sting. That's why.
Okay. No. Yeah, this was good. Good way to set this match up. Really can't do much else with these guys. So I didn't love Scorpio tapping out to the Scorpion Deathlock, but I get it. What else is he gonna do?
I did catch this because I thought you were going to say, this is not going to be a cinematic match, like they said.
Oh yeah,
and
well
I was
they pushed that really heavy, right? And I mean I figured at this point, I figure you're not gonna do every Sting match as a cinematic match. That would be ridiculous. Like you would just, I think eventually people might get sick of him. So yeah, I don't think he does a lot in this one, but I think he does enough. And then yeah, it's a good way to get him a couple more matches in. I wonder what they're building to with him, because they have to have something in mind. I feel like one big final match with Sting. I feel like Tony Khan's the type of guy who has that kind of vision in mind. So I wonder what it would be.
Can I tell a quick story?
Go for it.
That I hope that will not be repeated in this match.
Oh man.
When I was a little teenage boy, I went to a local indie in West Virginia, and it was on Halloween, and they brought in the Mordecai, whatever his vampire name was. No, Mordecai, like vampire guy from ECW, and he was supposed to fight Undertaker, and it was like, oh man, a vampire on Halloween, this is gonna be crazy, it's gonna be so cool. Dude came in the match, sat on the apron, and was tagged in once, did one clothesline, tagged out, and that was it.
That's it. That's all Sting's going to do, dude. He's going to go in there, do a Scorpion Deathlock.
I really hope not.
Lock in the Scorpion Deathlock, Stinger Splash, and that's it. No, I think
That's more than Mordecai did.
We'll see some stuff. He'll probably have his like full padding on and shit where he won't really get injured from any move. So
also, I don't hate you, Mordecai. I understand it was a West Virginia indie, but like, come on.
All right. From there, we get MJF with the Pinnacle at dinner. They all cut a decent promo together that ends with Shawn Spears killing a waiter for literally no reason. This is ridiculous. And MJF says that this is going to be the Pinnacle's last match together. So this was a really, or not the Pinnacle's, the Inner Circle's last match together. But this was a really good, solid promo. Spears being a psycho
upset with Shawn Spears.
is different. I don't know if I hate it or love it yet. I'm going to have to see more
I was
of
upset with him because he ended the promo. I was like, dude, I wanted to hear more.
Yeah, it's just weird. Because he's never been a guy that was that, right? Like to me that just seemed like some type of character who had lost his mind type of thing. He's never seemed like that to me. So I don't know where they're going.
I'm guessing they're going with like a god complex kind of thing. But that seems like what MJF has too. So I don't know.
Then that's why Spears will be the first one kicked out of the group. But we'll see. Hikaru Shida picks up a very quick victory over Rebel. This is essentially to set up a Britt Baker attack.
Rebel has lost a lot of weight, and she posted it on Twitter, and she looks great. She looked great, like physically, like she was in great shape for this match compared to like 3 months ago.
She has always looked great, AJ. Before we get too crazy, you don't want to be like Meltzer
You know what I
on here.
mean?
I know, but I want the people to know what you mean. That yes, she does. She does. She's been putting the work in. Shout out.
I'm fat,
No,
dude. I can say it.
I'm just saying. Shout out to her for putting the work in. But this was fine. Britt Baker attacking Sheeta. Good way to build up to this match. I don't know what else they could do to build it. So. Because it's
For
just
those
been
of you
built
who can't
in.
see, I patted my belly, my big fat belly, because I'm very fat.
That doesn't.
and
That
so I
does
can
not
talk.
give you the right to shame Rebel in any way.
I'm not shaming her. I thought she looked great before, but I'm saying athletically, she's in great shape.
That's all I'm trying to get across, brother. But no, good build. The match itself is like it builds itself, right? You don't have to do much for this one, so that's why this was all simple.
Yeah.
We get a video package from last week where Kenny Omega is talking to OC. He's trying to get him out of this match. And this was an interesting thing, right? Because I think this was probably taped when Orange Cassidy did potentially suffer a concussion, or they thought he might have. I think he was just knocked out, but they didn't know, right? So they before they can even get tests back and stuff, they set it up in a position where if they have to pull him from the match, they have an excuse. I feel like that's what this is. I don't think he's going to be pulled from it because we did get confirmation after that show that he was okay. But this was just smart pre-planning in my opinion. Yeah, and so the segment itself was fine. Good way to make Kenny seem like a piece of shit and Orange Cassidy seem like a cool guy.
Yep.
And we'll get a response.
I actually really like this. Like injury or no, I was into this. I was like, but I was also like, Orange, take it. That's Money in the Bank.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are taking and looking at this title as, right? Or this contract as, is like some type of Money in the Bank stipulation. So it's interesting, right? Because if that's what it is, almost Orange would be dumb not to take it. You let Hangman, if anything, you let Kenny do his match against Pac, and then you go out after, right? And then immediately after, like you just let him have a singles match. That way, you're not even involved in the triple threat. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I don't think Orange Cassidy will take it, but we'll get an answer to that on Friday's episode of Dynamite. Mm-hmm. Then we get.
You know what? I get it, because if Kenny had lost the title, then that means nothing.
Yeah.
So in a sense, he kind of is being smart.
Yeah. And then we get the Inner Circle sort of responding to the Pinnacle. Just another good promo. These guys did pretty decent. Sammy is a decent promo, but I'm excited to see growth there, type of thing. Like I see him on his vlog. He seems so natural. He seems so
naturally charismatic. Like he has it. He just needs to like tap into it.
But then when he does it on TV, it feels almost like Matt Jackson when he's trying to act. It like feels like just a different type of charismatic, but he has it 100%. It's just different when he's delivering a promo, and maybe we'll see that.
There's a little like roboticness, I feel like not that I mean that I don't mean he's a robot or monotone or anything. He's not. I just mean like it feels a little
almost scripted.
Yeah, there you go. And maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he's like, I'm bullet point, gotta remember this, gotta remember that. And like if he just fucking went off and was himself, I would think that would play really well.
And I can't blame him, right? Because how many like early podcasts did we do with everything lined up, and I was like reading stuff verbatim, and it probably just didn't sound as natural. Whereas when I'm not doing that type of stuff with the show, sounds a lot more natural, comes off across better, I'm sure. So with him, again, I don't think he does a bad job. I think his promo stuff will grow as he becomes more natural with that. It's almost the same feeling I had with Pillman, where it's like, this isn't a bad promo. This just feels scripted almost too much. So yeah, but not a bad promo at all. They set up the match with the Pinnacle. Makes total sense. They say if they can't beat them, then they don't deserve to be together anymore. I really don't know what's going to happen. I think that the Inner Circle will win. It makes a good amount of sense for them to win, but really, really don't know.
I don't know either. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. I'm leaning towards the Inner Circle. I think it makes sense, 1-to-1. But, maybe they're not going to do the 50-50 booking. Maybe there's not going to be a rubber match. Maybe this was the end for the Inner Circle. That would be cool, too. There's a lot, and seeing them disband and all these guys go singles, that would be kind of scary and also kind of exciting. Because, one, you're in a big-ass ocean. Like, this is not AEW from a year ago. This is a different AEW where you can't just be a big star, be like, because you're Sammy Guevara or Jake Hager or whoever. Like, they're all great, but like they might get lost in the shuffle a little bit for a while, at least, because not everybody can be a player at every point.
Look at Proud and Powerful. You'd love to see them as a featured tag team, right? And they really haven't even gotten that opportunity yet with AEW. But they've been okay because they're in the Inner Circle, so they have enough going on that you don't worry about it. But I would love to see, like, I don't know if it's now. I don't know if I want it to disband now. But I'm excited to see them on their own. Sammy on his own, Proud and Powerful on their own. Them able to just get mixed up and just feuds of 2-on-2, not a group of guys against a group of guys, because that's generally what they've been in since the beginning of AEW, because they feuded. They had the feud with the Elite. They've kind of been feuding within themselves, and then the feud now. So it's great stuff. I love it, but I'm excited to see where it goes. And I don't know if it's now. Again, I don't know if I want to see Sammy disband now. And you're right, they are in an ocean, but they do have that pre-build. But it's tough because if you come off of this would be 2 massive losses in a row. Also lost the first Stadium Stampede. So in a big setting, the Inner Circle really hasn't gotten it done yet.
I was gonna say the other thing. Here's the wrestling reason I don't think they're gonna lose the Inner Circle, because if the Inner Circle disbands, you want to do that in the ring. Like, you want them to have their, and you can obviously do it the next night.
What are you going to do? Cut
AEW.
to commercial with Mox and Kingston in the back destroying the Elite's locker room? Like, they aren't going to care. And maybe that's why it doesn't happen, right? Because they've just done a situation kind of similar to this.
I suppose I feel like with Daniels and Kaz, they're building up to them fighting. So after I realized that, I was like, maybe it makes sense you're not highlighting that these guys love you, or I don't know, whatever. But I feel like that was just a misstep on their part. I feel like if you break up the Inner Circle, you're doing that. Here's the other thing. I feel like if you put the Pinnacle over the Inner Circle twice, they are the faction, no doubt, and that makes them look really strong. And that would be a good thing for AEW with all these young guys. No, and Sean Spears.
You know what Sammy hinted to on his vlog, which I don't think is going to happen because he brought it up on his vlog, but he talked about how people think he's going to turn heel apparently in this match, where he's going to turn on Jericho and maybe join the Pinnacle. That just doesn't seem like a natural fit to me for him in that group. Him and MJF just feel like they're both maybe not on the same playing field, but they just have that potential to both of them, I feel like. So you wouldn't put them together right now in almost any circumstance. Like, I wouldn't put them as a tag team because they're bigger than that right now, and just it wouldn't make sense. So but
also, people love Sammy, and people naturally love Sammy even when he was a heel. And,
but it could be
people hate MJF even when he was a face.
It could be interesting if they do, maybe he doesn't join the Pinnacle, but they disband and he turns on Jericho immediately or something, leading to a Jericho and Sammy feud. Again, not something I'm initially anticipating, but as we speculate a potential split, where do they go? What would be the best scenario for them? If they split, Sammy's best scenario is probably a feud with Jericho immediately. Yeah. I don't really see that happening. I think this was a good promo to establish everything they have going towards the pay-per-view. The next promo was a promo I'm sick of hearing every week. Jade Cargill's promo about a manager. We get it, I think it's probably going to now end up being this MJF guy because he's been featured. Yeah, he's been featured a couple times. That gives me the feeling. We'll see how that goes.
Which I'm happy with. Because we were talking about it. We want young, unknown managers, not just legends, which is cool. But fucking do it or don't.
He's perfect because there's just something about him I do not like. So if he ends up being the manager, you have heat on her now because I like Jade a lot, but if she ends up picking this doofus over anyone else, I feel like I'll be frustrated. So that's good, right? I feel like that's the idea, and maybe establishing him in this way is a good way to figure that out. So we'll see. Seems like probably the road they're going to go, unless they go with some type of surprise, maybe on Friday or the pay-per-view. So. Then we got one of the great matches of the night, right? This was Deeb defending her title against Red Velvet, the NWA Women's Championship. This was a really great match. Serena Deeb comes to AEW, defends this title, and has great matches with whoever she's paired up against. I think Red Velvet has seen a lot of growth too. This match did wonders for both of them, I think, and just continuing to establish Deeb as a great champion. It excites me for when we get an eventual women's champion versus women's champion match, which I hope comes some point.
I'm assuming it'll come soon after the next pay-per-view probably, because that'll be in front of a big audience and you can build up whoever's gonna with the car sheet and Britt Baker. Anyways, what I was gonna say is this doesn't just build Deeb up as a great champion. This has really shown me Deeb is a great worker. Mm-hmm. Deeb is great in that ring. Every match she's had in AEW has been a banger or at least quality. Mm-hmm. She, even when she's working with opponents who are younger or lesser in the business,
just greener would be a great way to put it.
Greener, that's what I mean. She nails it, and with Red Velvet it works so well because Red Velvet's so athletic and dexterous, and Serena Deeb is strong and can like throw her around if she wanted to, and can do a lot with her. And this match worked out really well. Like you said, this was one of the better ones on the show.
Yeah, they did a good job, and it wasn't one like on paper. I knew it would be good because Deeb has been good. Velvet has delivered in points where she definitely needed to, and again, she just keeps having a couple of moments here and there where I see a lot of potential for her down the line. I don't think even necessarily the thing with Jade is completely over, so I'm excited to see where they've been going with Red Velvet. I'm glad to see her continuing to get some TV time, and this was a great match, and again, just a good way to feature both of these talent. And you're spot on about Deeb. So then we got a Pac promo just talking about becoming champion. Who's dumb enough to bet against him? Yeah, his promos are great. It's been a while since we've gotten a really great one, but I don't feel this promo did much for me to believe he could become champion though.
Nothing. But because like he should have been there when Orange Cassidy came out with Omega. Like he should have been there this whole time. And it feels like he's been on the back burner for this whole entire match, and which is a shame because it's Pac.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's one of the best wrestlers you have on your roster. Like make him look like a threat to Kenny. Don't just give him one promo and you know what they did in the finish. But like
I wish I'm sure he had a strong run leading up to this, but I wish like we had saw like 5 just really, really good Pac matches, like capped off with one against someone who's in the top 5 or something. Not Hangman, but just anyone else. Just something like that. He's definitely a viable contender. I'm not mad about him challenging for the title. I still think the match is great on paper. It's going to be a banger. You could see him pin Orange Cassidy or something. Like maybe that's why Kenny's trying to get OC out, right? Because you don't want a lesser man in there who could potentially lose you your title when you don't have to do anything. So I understand all of that. And his promo wasn't bad. Again, it just didn't do anything to establish him as the guy who could win. And I don't know that he could have said anything that would have made me believe that.
Yeah, I felt like at the start of AEW, Pac felt like not only one of like the best workers, but like one of the strongest contenders for that
and
title.
that's why I give him enough credence for this right now. But it's lost a lot of that, right? Like it definitely doesn't have that initial.
Because he was away for so long, and then you're not really promoting him.
He came back into trios. Then he had a tag team title match, came up short on that. Again, nothing you blame him for, but it's like almost would have preferred, and I don't know if I would want Phoenix and OC to be the guys, but I would have preferred Phoenix to have been a guy in this, and then maybe just someone else. I don't know who I would pick, but I would have preferred, and I get why you wouldn't do Phoenix and OC, both really small guys, 2 guys you really don't believe much as champions. But I would rather Phoenix have gotten that OC potential of like, oh, maybe he's going to become champion, maybe not. And then someone else put in that match as well. Again, I'm not mad about any of it, but Pac's a great competitor. The match is going to be amazing. These 3 all have built-in stuff between them, right? With Pac and OC, Kenny and Pac, and now OC.
I already
and Kenny,
like your hypothetical. I'm thinking of like, oh, you could have had Cage beating Page, and put Cage in there, put Phoenix in there. Then you have a big guy, small guy, Kenny
like
Omega.
And like you have some reason to believe Cage could win.
Yeah.
You finally get Cage and Omega in a match. You get. Yeah, that could have been amazing. And again, I'm not trying to backseat book and say that would have been better than this. I'm still curious to see where this goes, but I think they could have just done a little bit different with the first triple threat. But
I agree.
We got Anthony Ogogo picking up a win over which gun is this? Austin Gunn. Austin Gunn. And I'm sorry, Austin, for not remembering your name because you did a bloody good job, mate. He looked great. Looked great in defeat, I would say.
Austin Gunn was the right pick too, because Colton's newer, right?
Austin sold like a champ. They did do like a blood tablet spot, I think. Well, obviously, but someone had called it out, like where they saw him spit out the blood tablet or get handed the blood tablet or whatever. It is what it is. Who cares? It was if you suspend your disbelief and you appreciate the story
so it doesn't matter to me.
From the story part of it, I'm like, okay, this is cool. It is kind of weird to think like, oh, he punched him so hard he's bleeding out of his mouth. Like, come on, he's not about to die, but. I get it. It was cool. All that aside, this was awesome. Ogogo's finish, which I assume this is his real finish, where he's like lifting a guy up and knocking him out, way better than the gut punch. But they did a good job at building up that gut punch as like a signature move.
Yeah, and I think I'm hoping it's because people were like, this gut punch sucks, that they did that. Because you're right, this looks way better. This looks cool. He throws him up in the air and punches him in the fucking head.
Wait
what more
till
do
he
you
does
want?
it to Marco's stunt, dude. Because he's going to launch that dude about 50 feet in the air and punch his head out of the freaking building. Like, it's going to be wild.
My God.
Like, and so that's why I like that move. That's a cool move where it's one you want to do in a wrestling move all the time, or in a wrestling game all the time, because it's just such a sweet move.
And And it gives him it gives like if he's fighting a big guy, then he can go to the gut punch, and nobody's gonna bat an eye.
And he did a little bit in this match, like in terms of taking a little bit of a beating, not necessarily being on offense the whole time, which added an interesting dynamic to this match. And I think every match we watch this guy, which is why I'll be interested to see how long they can keep him a heel for, because they're putting over the fact that he's blind. He's consistently, like, whenever he's getting attacked, covering his eye, because it genuinely seems like if he gets hit in the eye the wrong way, he's going to be out. Indefinitely. So.
Speaking of Rocky Romero from earlier, why doesn't he wear a cool eye patch like Rocky?
Because he can. Well, I mean, he can't see, but he can see a little bit.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to take away his visibility entirely.
Then he doesn't have to.
Well, this is like physical protection. Eye patch isn't going to protect you entirely from like damage.
Metal eye patch like D'Lo Brownie headbutts.
Maybe that's what he brings into the game. But so far, Ogogo is getting better. Like everything we've seen from him has been better. Yeah. So. Then we got SCU in the back. Christopher Daniels whispers sweet nothings into Kaz's ear before Kaz cuts a promo. And you say that this is going to lead to a match between these two, huh?
I feel like it's got to be one of Chris Daniels' like longtime friends or opponents. Like I said, Samoa Joe would be good, but none of the best would be AJ Styles, obviously. But we're not going to be able to get that. So Kaz would be probably number 2 in terms of people who he's been around and people who he's worked with and people who like he's just been actual really like family close friends with.
What about him versus the American Dragon? When the American Dragon debuts, you know?
I don't know how much. Honestly, I haven't. I'm sure I know they've crossed paths, but I don't know how
No,
much.
I don't think they have like a long history together. But I think a match between them would be pretty wicked. And then that is like just off the wall dream booking. I think his final match would probably be against someone like Kaz. I hope they. And it's weird, right? Because the pay-per-view's coming up. If they were going to position him in like a retirement match, you feel like they would have built towards it a little bit more. I don't know. Because I would have put it on that pay-per-view, right? I wouldn't put it on a Dynamite. But Daniels is a guy where he could be like, probably like, I don't need it to be on the pay-per-view. We could do it on a Dynamite.
You're absolutely right. And also, like, he recognizes as somebody who's a part of this company, like not just a wrestler, that like this is a TV rating kind of business right now. So
pop rating, sense. Brother. Yeah. So I'm definitely interested to see where this goes, though. And if it comes down to Kaz and Daniels, they will have a great match as well. Kaz has been reestablished as a really great singles competitor over the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, not mad at it. We get Miro coming out, cutting a promo, and setting up a match that I'm definitely not mad at. And we speculated that we would see this one this Friday. And I don't blame him for not putting it on this Friday because it's definitely a pay-per-view worthy match. But this match, I feel like, draws people into Friday much more than Miro versus Dante Martin. That's neither here nor there, though. We got Archer coming out, going back and forth with Miro, clearly setting up a match between the two. Archer talks about his history with the belt, how he was the first one to get a title shot, which is really cool way to build up to this because I personally had forgotten about it. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is going to be an amazing match on the pay-per-view.
It's going to be, but okay, I'm mad,
You're mad because your guy's about to lose, huh?
He always loses.
That's his story. He's that one guy.
He's so big.
He just loses all the time. Yeah.
He's the big loser.
What's the name of that guy in New Japan who can never win?
I don't know. Yano?
No, not Yano, brother. The guy
Yano
who can never seal the deal in G1 and stuff. You know who I'm talking about. But that's fine. We don't got to talk about that. Yeah, it's a tough spot for Archer. Don't seem like he's going to win. I will say, though, that this I will believe if he wins. Like, I won't be mad at it. It won't be a bad thing. I think they could have a banger Haas match. I think it hurts either guy to lose, right? Like, they're going to have an amazing match because it would hurt either guy to lose without it.
Somebody's going over hard.
Maybe it goes to a draw. Like, they didn't end up running the draw that they wanted to on Dynamite, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to run a draw right now with these two and then build up to the fin. And I wouldn't be mad about them having a non-finish for the TNT title that leads to a match on TNT where you like that type of booking is fine. Like that makes a ton of sense. I would love to see that. Very intrigued to see where this goes. The match itself should be a freaking that's one on this card, and they have a couple of them, pretty much the whole card, honestly, for the pay-per-view. Where you're like, this could steal the show.
AEW is really good about this is something like when we start talking WWE, we'll talk about this a lot. WWE, whenever there's like two guys who are really over and like really need the win, like they always do a bullshit finish. AEW doesn't do that. Like Darby Allin and Miro, like there was a finish there.
Yeah.
Like Miro won. And you could say, oh, Darby was hurt, Darby was
I feel
this,
like
whatever.
This is more dynamic than that, though, in terms of, like,
I agree,
these guys both need to win because Miro, it's just too early for him to lose the belt after this need to get the belt. But for Archer, it's tough for him to keep losing these spots. So
yeah. I feel like this is the point where like somebody's gonna get put over. Like I don't think it's going to draw because they're gonna be like, there's two monsters here. One of them needs to win, and one of them is going to win. And it's probably gonna be Miro.
Yeah, and then here's the hard truth of that, right? Like I think Miro's probably a little bit younger than Archer, so they probably see like in terms of longevity and a guy you can put at the top right now, it's probably someone more like Miro than Archer. But Archer is a guy who establishes Miro, boom, as like a top competitor. And I even though
not because you're burying him, because you're making a monster.
And they're gonna
sense.
have a freaking awesome match. I want to see Archer hit his finish on him too. I want to see him kick out of it. Like that's what I need from that match because those two dudes are freaking huge. And I won't be mad if they don't because I get it, they're huge. But yeah, they did a great job at building this match. As a fan of these two, I'm just like that. Almost to me is worth a pay-per-view main event in and of itself. Like because and you didn't have to do shit with it, but just build these guys up. You knew Archer was trying to get that title. Him versus Darby didn't happen, so we get this instead, and this is awesome. So, and the main event was also awesome of this show. The Bucks pick up a victory over the Varsity Blondes. Varsity Blondes looked great, and I loved it. Like there have been a couple moments where they've had this, and there have been a couple moments where they didn't. I know that anytime they've been in this position where they're against a great team, they shine and they look really good, which is amazing because this isn't a long-standing team who've been together for 10, 15 years. They've been together since they came together in AEW.
Yeah, this was a great match, and it made. I want to say something. Like, as much as I love Brian Pillman, as much as I know Dark Side of the Ring is the reason this match is happening, and it should have. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Griff Garrison looked like a fucking star. Griff Garrison looked like he's really
huge,
tall.
Doing his big boots and stuff, yeah.
Compared to everyone else in that ring, he looked like a big dude. He was big booting people. Like, he was doing great shit, and he just comes off so natural and so fluid in the ring. I really was impressed by Griff Garrison. Not saying Brian Pillman Jr. didn't nail it. Like, he did great too. But, like, Griff Garrison, to me, out of everybody in this match, that was the standout.
I agree. And again, I'm not going to act like Griff Garrison and Jungle Boy cannot exist in the same world, but how interesting is it that he just...
A hair versus hair match?
Like, he looks like a freaking... Like, he just... And again, he's on the upside, right? He's someone that started off as, like, an extra, so you didn't see much for him, and has been able to elevate that into this position he's in now, which has been amazing and fun to watch. But... It's not the same as Jungle Boy, who came in with all this expectation early on, but because of that, he's really kind of caught up to Jungle Boy, right? Almost in the same type of atmosphere personally, where I don't see him splitting from Pillman anytime soon, but when he gets his opportunity as a singles, it's going to be really interesting. I think they see a lot of potential in him, and I think they know they have a couple of stars like that, like him, Jungle Boy. A year from now, it's going to be interesting to look at this company and see which guys are at the top, because they got a couple that are really freaking good who could be up there, and who just aren't even there yet. They're on the cusp.
You write about it every week, brother.
Yeah. So this was a great match. They end the show with Mox and Kingston coming out, dropping the Young Bucks, stealing their shoes, which was a great touch. I thought this was awesome. A lot of fun. They did a good job with the show. It wasn't a home run. I am a little bit like, I think they could have done more to build up towards next week's show, towards this Friday show, but I'm not mad at it.
I'm not either. I thought it did exactly what it needed to do. It built up where it needed to build up. We finally got Pac, like, for instance. We got a good Mox and Eddie build up. We got them with the Young Bucks. We got everything that this show needed to deliver to hype up this coming pay-per-view. And I feel like, even though it wasn't like, oh, wow, this isn't a must-watch Dynamite, who cares? Like, it was good. It was good, and it did what it needed to do.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think that this was a solid show, and what it was when you on paper, again, it was what it was. But when you tune in and you watch the matches that were on this Dynamite, great matches. Everybody essentially looked great, except for like the Rebel match, which Rebel looked great, right, brother?
Yeah.
So it was a good show. I think they did a great job. Let's talk quickly about next week's show. This week it's gonna be on Friday, so everybody knows. If you're like me and AJ, you probably forgot. Even going into tomorrow, I feel like I'm gonna be like, Dynamite's on tonight, and I'm gonna realize, dang, it's not. I'm gonna have to watch.
Probably, yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch some basketball tomorrow or something. But Friday night we got Joey Janela taking on Hangman Page. Who you got in this one?
Ooh.
Who you got?
You know who I got, brother. I always got to bet on him even when the chips are down. I'm betting on Janela.
The chips are super stacked. It's definitely a big match. Hangman going into his Double or Nothing match against Brian Cage. I don't see Janela winning this one, but I'm glad he's in this position. He's someone who, like, I think about a lot because I'm a big fan of his, right? But I think about a lot in terms of they're bringing in a lot of talent, showcasing a lot of guys. Love Joey, but how long does he stick around? And the fact that he gets opportunities like this, right, tells me I think he sticks around for a long time. Joey's someone who's different, right? He's perceived very different on social media. The internet perceives him very different. They do all this, and I'm a huge Joey fan. I'm just saying this as someone who recognizes the perception of the guy. So because of that, I was always kind of wondering, like, where will he where does he stand in AEW? Where will he stand in AEW? And so far, I think he's in great standing. I think he's not in any potential danger, especially when he's facing someone like Hangman in a big spot. It feels like to me. So.
Yeah. Like, I don't expect the match to be long, but I hope it is. I hope it's like 9 minutes.
He's gotten some great opportunities recently, dude, and I think maybe that's why why he's getting this match
is happening.
Because when we've seen it a couple times on social media where people are like, "Holy shit, Joey looks great," and I've known that, I've known it,
yeah,
but it seems like I've known it, but it seems like people are starting to catch on, and maybe he's just becoming a little bit more sound and working on fine-tuning some of the fundamental stuff, right? This is something I heard watching like MMA, I think. It was like when you come in and you don't learn the fundamentals early, but you're good at everything else, it's harder to learn the fundamentals later on. And I think that probably translates the same with professional wrestling. And unless you're completely foreign to Joey's career, you know that he wasn't like initially trained at all. So these things I think are starting to really come together as he's gotten his time in AEW, and I'm excited to see how he does. And Zevo's going to be like, these brothers are talking about Joey Janela for full 4 minutes.
We're not done because I want to say something. Not just about Janela, though. About a lot of guys. About like guys like Sammy Guevara, about like MJF, about Jungle Boy, about Joey Janela, who is under the radar compared to those guys. Like, not nearly as seen in the same light. You should be worried when these guys' contracts come up, because some of them are going to be like, if I don't feel valued, or if I don't feel like I'm
I think in general,
I don't think he's leaving.
No, I think in general, a lot of those guys love AEW, and they love the atmosphere, and they love what they're doing.
Absolutely.
But you're not wrong in terms of like, well, I might not get the opportunity right now, and if I go there, I'm going to have the stigma just from coming off here that I might automatically get an opportunity, right, from being like a semi-face over here. We've seen it in the past. It happens when people change companies all the time. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be leaving. And I think he's gotten, 100% as a big fan of Joey Janela, I think he's gotten everything he just deserved in AEW. I don't think he should be in like massive championship matches. I think everything he's gotten, he's deserved. I just think he should be featured. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. All I mean to say is, if you want to make sure these guys are gonna stay loyal to your company, make sure they feel like a fucking player. Like, they're not just being a tool and thrown away. Like, we have maybe not plans for you right now, but you're a part of this. Like, you are.
I think that's why in general the AEW talent is happy, right? Because I think they know that. Yeah. Like, obviously we won't know that, but they know that. They know that they're a key piece. Like the Jungle Boys of the world. Maybe in a place like WWE, he might be a little bit jaded right now because he hasn't been getting featured as much as, say, Griff Garrison. But in AEW, I'm sure he recognizes there is plans for him in the future, and guys are just, depending on the time, being pulled and put into positions where they need to be. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think you're a little too spicy. You're a little too spicy.
I am. I'm just. It's a hot take. It's if we were doing our old gimmick, I would be eating a chip right now.
Yeah, for sure.
or not gimmick.
Yeah. But no, I think that what they're building, I'm glad that we're going to get to see Joey in this. We got a Jade Cargill Open Challenge. I don't know who answers this, but whoever it is getting wrecked.
Yeah.
Wrecked. That's all you got, right? Like, there's really nothing else to say about this. Just
no, like, whoever comes out is gonna get bopped unless it's like some crazy signing we weren't expecting, or like it's Thunder Rosa. That'd be cool.
That would be really cool, and I wouldn't know who I would want to pick in that because I love both of those women. I think Rosa could make Jade look really great, and it would elevate Jade a lot to pick up a victory over Thunder Rosa. I don't think that's who it'll be because that would be again a tough position. You don't want either of these two people to lose. I think
also you would want to promote the shit out of that.
But it's interesting how it's being promoted, right? An open challenge, so you could be right. Like, it could be someone like that who is just taking a surprising shot at Jade Cargill. So Anthony Ogogo, Cody Rhodes going to be doing a Double or Nothing weigh-in. We're going to learn that Cody Rhodes has put on 50 pounds to fight Ogogo. He's legit heavyweight now.
Didn't he already do that?
Yeah, that's why this is funny to me, because they're just doing this too.
He did it for Brody.
They're doing this to repeat that. So I think, and that's cool. Like, when he did it for Brody, it was cool. It's cool for this. Like, for once, a weigh-in makes sense, right? This dude used to be a boxer, so.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bitch about it.
Inner Circle going to celebrate their greatest moments. Interesting.
Is this like a clip show, like the Simpsons episodes where like they're just running clips from the old episodes and being like, "Wow, that was so funny when we did that."
Like, hey, we might break up, so we got to show the greatest hits type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Evil Uno and Stu Grayson taking on Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. This is cool. We haven't, speaking of guys who haven't been featured, and again, I don't think a lot of talent are upset about that, but Uno and Stu Grayson are two guys we haven't seen a whole lot of on Dynamite for sure. Probably on Dark, and that's why they also don't get upset. They are featured on different platforms.
Absolutely.
It just depends on where. That's why they run 50 matches a week. But this is interesting to
new
me
shows coming.
because this is a bit of a significant victory, I would say, for Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. While I don't think Uno and Grayson are necessarily above them as maybe singles competitors in the tag team division, Uno and Grayson have been ranked almost, I think, maybe number one at a couple different times. So.
Absolutely, and not only that, they're a seasoned, tenured tag team. Like these guys have been together since as far as I can remember watching wrestling. Like these guys are a real unit. This is a tag team, like kind of like the Young Bucks. No, they're not brothers, but they've been a tag team like the whole time.
I thought that one was Mario and the one was Luigi. I'm devastated. No, I think they've been together a long time, so.
So it means something if a new tag team beats these guys. It does matter.
They've come from the mud in AEW. They started out in the dirt as the Dark Order, and have come to be a part of one of the more entertaining pieces of AEW. And when you watch Being the Elite, you know that these two guys add their piece to that entertainment. Maybe not so much on Dynamite. They just kind of come on Dynamite and win, honestly, is what these two do, which is, again, why this is going to be a significant victory for Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. I really don't have a doubt that they're going to lose. And again, this
I don't either.
Builds up to the Sting thing, too. We might see Sting with the Dark Order in short order, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Darby Allin taking on Cesar Bononi. He's been getting a lot of feature on Dynamite, and I don't think that necessarily means he's going to be called up, for lack of a better term, where he's featured as kind of like Will Hobbs, right, where he went from being on Dark a lot to being a featured guy.
That's a good example. That's a great example.
But who knows? Maybe. I mean, because again, he's been featured a lot. His group has been featured a lot. I don't see him turning on his group. His group has almost been one of the more entertaining parts of Dark and Dark Elevation from what people have been saying. So. Yeah,
I think Will Hobbs is a great example to compare him to. He's a big guy who stands out in a group, and he could absolutely be featured on Dynamite more, and not necessarily be a top guy. Will Hobbs isn't a top guy, but he matters. He means something. When he's in the ring, it's oh, this guy's big and strong, and he could beat him.
He's someone
and
I could see
need.
any one of these random managers or groups recruiting and wouldn't have a problem with it, right? Because he's been able to be showcased pretty well. And this match against Darby could be interesting. I don't think he's going to win, but he should get a lot of offense in just because of the size difference, Darby being beat down, everything like that.
And it should be really fun because just again the size difference.
Yeah. So I think that they've been doing some cool stuff with guys like Cesar. So who knows what we'll see with him in the future. Then they're going to have a 1-year championship celebration for Hikaru Shida. I think this is a pretty cool thing to sort of get into the habit of.
The longest reigning champ.
Yeah, established very early in AEW. Maybe not something anyone had anticipated, but so far it's been a great run. Her run has not been, it's not felt faulty or fluky. It's not felt like she's only run through the same competitors. Early on, Nyla Rose thing felt like kind of repetitive, but since then she's had a ton of great competitors to defend against. She's helped elevate people like Tay Conti. Thunder Rosa was on her own, going places on her own, but the match against Hikaru helped her as well. All these things that they've done with these talent have done really, really well for AEW and the women's division, and Hikaru has been a great focal point. Again, when we talk about documentaries down the line, she's going to be someone talked about a lot. It's just
they did a
big
whole ass tournament and she won.
Yep.
This girl is a boss of this division. She is, honestly, she's as much of and I mean video game boss. She's as much of a video game boss champion as Kenny Omega as far as the women go. She's been unstoppable.
Yeah.
And she's been the unstoppable champion in the year where nobody was supposed to be able to really make this belt work.
Yeah.
She did it. She made
You're
the
right,
belt work.
because early on we were talking about how we loved the women's division. It was on a great projection. Pandemic happened, injuries happened, things set it off balance. But she's almost helped re-establish this division to a point where we're once again the women's division in AEW is in a great position now. They're doing great stuff with it. I could see Britt lose this match. She's being booked essentially 100% to win. Makes a ton of sense for her to win. Probably going to win. Wouldn't be mad, wouldn't be surprised if she loses. So.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Because
at this point, I'm pulling for
if anyone deserves it. If anyone does, in terms of They put in the work. They carried it on their back. They did everything they were supposed to, and then more. Hikaru Shida nails every single check mark. Like, just wow.
Yep.
She did the impossible. And so if you put her over Britt Baker, I'm not gonna be pissed. Fuck no. I'm gonna be like that. Maybe the right move. Like, give her another year. Give her the Bruno run.
The champion celebration will be interesting too, because I imagine Britt could get involved, but we'll see how it goes. Should be interesting.
I can't wait for Britt to ruin it.
I don't know. Well, they've done this already, kind of. So I don't know if they do the same thing over again.
You're right.
Then we get Orange Cassidy responding to the offer from Kenny Omega. I don't think he's going to accept it. Do you?
I would hope not.
Yeah, I don't anticipate.
Well,
it.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Kenny and Pac is still a fine singles
loses,
match to me, so I'm not mad about it.
Oh yeah. If he is like, I'll wait and I bet you're gonna beat Pac, then okay, cool. But like, he has to bet against Pac, and as Pac said, who's stupid enough to bet against Pac?
Yeah, maybe that's why he said it. So, and then in the main event, we're getting Miro defending against Dante Martin. It could be a good spot for Dante to look really good. I feel like this is gonna be like the reverse of what happened last time. They were on a late Dynamite on a different night. But instead of like when Brody won the title, it's gonna be Miro retaining the title and just dominating Dante in like 3 minutes, and that's the story.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that. I mean, it's gonna be the main event. We assume
it was the open challenge. Dude, he ran, he found the contract and signed it first. What do you expect?
Yeah, no, I just mean like they've been saying the TNT title goes on the main event, and they've been holding themselves to that.
There's nothing on this card I would position over this.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? You don't have to you can make it the main event match without it being the main event. You could put the Hikaru Shida thing or the Orange Cassidy thing on last.
Or those two for sure.
Or the Inner Circle, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and probably not the Inner Circle.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was like, maybe, but no, with it being like a clip thing, probably not. But yeah, I mean, I think this will probably just close the show, be a quick, but I like what you're thinking, because that gives you time to where you can do a 3-minute match and people don't know it's going to be a 3-minute match, right? Because there's 20 minutes, 15 minutes left on the show. You do a short-ass match, long segment, boom, everything's fine. So, yeah, I think this week's Dynamite is very interesting. Again, remember, tune in on Friday for that. We will actually be posting a show on Friday as well. We're going to be recording it in the morning, so you catch that Friday afternoon. Just giving our thoughts on the pay-per-view. We've given a lot of thoughts on the pay-per-view, but we're going to run through the whole card, give official predictions, that type of stuff. We did a giveaway with the last pay-per-view, so we'll probably do something similar with this pay-per-view. So make sure you tune into next week's episode. Like I said, if you're listening to us on iTunes, anything like that, make sure you give us a review. Let us know what you think about the show, what we could do to improve, what you like about the show, all of that type of stuff. We've wrapped up all the news. We talked about Dynamite. We talked about this week's Dynamite, AJ. Anything I forgot?
Give me a second, because I just want to make sure.
Fair enough. I think we're good.
We talked about Elevation and everything. We're good, man.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some Kenny Omega match against
There was a really good promo on Elevation from Austin Gunn and Colton Gunn that you guys should check out. If you're listening to this and you don't always watch Elevation, just skim through it, find that promo. It's Austin Gunn explaining how, and Billy Gunn talks too, about how he was like, please don't be a wrestler when he graduated college, because he said to him, made a deal when they were kids. I don't want to bury the whole thing, but like, or spoil the whole thing, but like, you have to go to college, and then I'll help you do whatever you want in your life.
I'm going to have to check this out.
Both of them did. Yeah, it was really good. It was really
well done.
Because
I want to compare it to Pillman's, like just straight up to how does it feel to me compared to Pillman's.
Way better.
So, yeah,
and also, it makes me feel like a trios title is more and more possible, because it feels like they're really not just pushing Colton and Austin, but the whole family.
The depth of this roster, I mean, they might as well get one of those titles established at this point. I wouldn't be mad about it. And they run a lot of shit like that, so it would make sense to me.
I know Quackenbush would be salty, but I really don't want King of Trios to die with Chikara.
Yeah, I think you're right. So that wraps up what we have for this week. AJ, go ahead, let them know where they can find you on social media.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
Y'all can find me on Twitter at 2SweetElite. Make sure you check me out there. We're going to be having the WrestleJoy article up later on today about Lee Johnson, either today or tomorrow. You can also catch me on Instagram at Andrew Kazir. The podcast is always on Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. If you're watching this there, make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. Leave us a couple comments. Let us know what you're thinking. And you can find us on Twitter at AllElitePodcast. Let us know what you're thinking there as well. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning into the podcast.